Hello friends, looking at current affairs for 8th June, the news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 17. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, 12 killed in twin Iran attack. So in Iran, the attack took place on the parliament as well as on the shrine of its supreme leader, the first supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. So this attack, the responsibility has been claimed by Islamic State. 12 people have been killed in these attacks. So this is the news here. You can see the parliament and this tomb here were attacked in Tehran. Then the next news item is World Health Organization revises antibiotics protocol. So World Health Organization has now given 3 categories for use of antibiotics. So antibiotics which are commonly in use and should be made available easily. So these are in the access category, the first category. The second line of antibiotics which are slightly more potent and they have been categorized in the category of watch. So these watch category means they have to be recommended but on a watch, means they should not be easily made available and easily recommended by medical practitioners too. And the last category is reserve category. So these are antibiotics which should be used as a last resort. So this 3 categorization will enable medical practitioners and countries to specifically even align their list of essential medicines the way they have been done by World Health Organization. So this revision in the essential medicine list has been done by World Health Organization and this categorization has been brought out. So this is an important news because we are seeing antibiotic resistance developing, because of which the medicine then does not function anymore. So then better and more improvised antibiotics are required. So if an antibiotic is given into such an extent, in such cases where it is not desirable, then antibiotic resistance develops, because even the bacteria, so antibiotics are targeting bacteria, so these bacteria also evolve and these bacteria develop resistance. They become immune to those antibiotics. So to make sure that this does not take place, it is advised that antibiotics should be used wisely. So this is a step in that direction. So you can see amoxicillin. So this is a widely used antibiotic for pneumonia. So this has been put under the category of access. And this colistin, which is an antibiotic which should be used as a last resort. So it is in the reserve category. So here you can see colistin. It is a drug which is generally used for killing bacteria in cases like the cystic fibrosis. So these are hereditary disorders. So for such extreme cases, colistin can be used. Otherwise, it should not be used. Only as a last resort, such an antibiotic should be used. Then next news item is presidential elections on July 17th. So President Pranab Mukherjee's term, 5-year term, will come to an end on July 24. So presidential elections are to be held on July 17. The last date for nomination is June 28. And then finally on July 17, these elections will also be held by the Election Commission of India. So parliament elections, state level elections as well as election for the post of president, vice president are held under Election Commission of India. So election date has been announced July 17 and the counting of votes will take place on July 20. So the electoral college for the election of the president, means members who participate in the election of the president, is called the electoral college. So it comprises of elected members of both the houses of parliament, means Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and also the elected members of state legislative assemblies. Only the lower house of states and only the elected members. Nominated members are not part of the electoral college. Also elected members of 2 union territories which have legislative assemblies are also part of the electoral college. So this is specifically Delhi and Puducherry. So this is mentioned here, you can see. So the eligibility which is mentioned in the constitution for the post of president is that he should be a citizen of India, he should have completed 35 years of age and he should be qualified for election as a member of Lok Sabha. Then other provisions are there, like he should not hold any office of profit as such. So such provisions can also be, as put up by the parliament, they can also be in an act, are also applicable. Then the way the elections take place, so to win the post of president, the person who is standing for the election should get 50% plus 1 vote, absolute majority. So for that, there will be many candidates standing. So of course the votes would be divided. So if there are 3 candidates too, it may be difficult for one to get 50% plus 1 vote if votes are divided amongst 3. for example. So in that case, what happens is, this is a system of proportional representation as a single transferable vote. So what happens is, every member in the electoral college will vote for the president on the basis of, preference. So if, say for example, if there are 3 members standing for the election, then each member would vote as a preference. That is, first preference is say candidate A, B, C. So first preference is A, second is B, third is C. Some may say C, B, A, and so on. So everybody will vote for all the candidates. They give their preferences, and then the first preference of all members in electoral college is C. And if in that first round, if some candidate amongst all gets 50% plus 1, great, you have got the president elected. If that does not happen, then the person who's got the least votes in the first round, when all first preferences of all candidates are taken up, so that person gets out of the race, the last, and all those people who had given him as the first preference, their second preferences are counted and added up. So that's again, then that ground again it is seen, if somebody is getting 50% plus 1, great. Otherwise, you can eliminate the last candidate too again and take the votes which have been given by those people who had elected for him as such into another, adding up in other categories for other candidates. So this finally it goes on, this transferring of votes goes on until you get one candidate who has got 50% plus 1 votes. So this is how election of president takes place, and it is equal weightage given to the members of Lok Sabha and members of state bodies. So their voting share, the value of vote of each MP and each MLA is taken in such a way that total value of votes of all MPs is equal to total value of votes of all MLAs. Both have equal say, the center and the states, like that. Then the next news item is, RBI holds rates to retain credibility. So this is regarding the bi-monthly monetary policy review which takes place by Monetary Policy Committee of RBI. So this Monetary Policy Committee has been functioning since last year. So you can see the setup, it comprises of 6 members. 3 are from RBI and 3 are external members appointed by the government. So this is the Monetary Policy Committee, and its sole objective is to keep inflation rates under control. So you can see here the inflation rate target is that inflation rate should be 4% and within plus minus 2% band. Means you can say from 2% to 6%. So that in that range, inflation should stay within that range. That is the particular objective of Monetary Policy Committee. Earlier, monetary policy means specifically repo rate and other rates were decided by RBI independently. Now it has been functioning through Monetary Policy Committee only. So government had brought in this reform, and MOU was signed with RBI, and Monetary Policy Committee has been established, which has been given statutory status through amendment to the RBI Act as well. So this you can see, the chairman of Monetary Policy Committee is RBI governor only, means Mr. Urjit Patel. So decision takes place by majority vote. Till date, all the Monetary Policy Committee meetings had decisions taken by consensus, means all members had agreed. Only in this present decision which has been taken, the news which we have presently, there was a dissenting vote. Means one member did not agree with other 5. So then whether the dissent was for going with the policy or whether he wanted to cut or raise the repo rate is not known. It was Mr. Dholakya. You can see the member here, Ravindra Dholakya, he disagreed. So the decision which has been taken in present Monetary Policy Committee meeting is that repo rate should stay unchanged at 6.25%. So repo rate, what is repo rate also we have discussed earlier. We'll have a look at it once again too. And what does it imply? In the last bi-monthly Monetary Policy Committee, we had seen the government had, the Monetary Policy Committee had changed its stance in February specifically. In February, it had changed its stance from accommodative to neutral. So what does this mean also? We'll see. So here you can see, so this is given about in case of a tie. So decision is taken by majority in Monetary Policy Committee. In case of a tie, casting vote is done by the RBI governor. Quorum means minimum number of members who should be present for Monetary Policy Committee to function is at least 4 of them out of the 6. Repo rate. What is the repo rate? Repo rate is repurchasing option. So this is the government securities, are government bonds which are repurchased by the banks from the RBI at a later date. So RBI is, it's actually the rate at which RBI gives short-term loans to banks. So the interest rate which banks have to pay to RBI is this. So this means government bonds are brought by the RBI. So in buying our government bonds, money is given to the banks. So in that case, and then these bonds are repurchased by the banks at a later date. So this is what is being defined as repo rate. So if repo rate is increased, means interest which banks will have to pay to RBI. If interest is increased, means it will become difficult for banks to acquire credit, acquire money. So then they will also increase their interest rates which are taking on their loans. So this is how it is reflected. Repo rate is reflected in the economy. So repo rate increase means interest rates of banks would also increase, and it would become difficult to get credit easily in the economy. So when inflation levels are high, repo rate is increased. If inflation levels are low, then repo rate has to be decreased so that economy can be given a spur to. So that's how repo rate is dealt with. And what is inflation? You should know inflation too. Inflation is general increase in the level of prices of goods and services. So over a period of time, if prices are increasing, then it is called inflation. So this is there. So here you can see there are two types of inflations too in terminology specifically used. Rather, types can be many in different ways. They can be classified. Two specific terms which we are talking of here is core inflation and headline inflation. So headline inflation is the overall inflation, means overall the way goods and services prices are increasing. But core inflation is looking only at the core. So in headline inflation, we can see the inflation which makes headlines, means when prices of oil, they are very fluctuating. Food prices are very fluctuating. So they may go drastically high. There can be spikes. Can go drastically high, can come drastically down. So then headline, they make the headlines. So then inflation value which you get out of that is overall inflation value. But then it is, it is molded because of these values being included into it. So core inflation then basically means when you exclude these volatile commodities out, means specifically if food items and oil prices, or food and oil prices are excluded from inflation figure, then what you get is core inflation. So these are the two terminologies also you should know. So now coming to what has been done, the policy stance also. What do you mean by accommodative and neutral? So accommodative policy stance is one in which the RBI is ready to be accommodative to reduce the repo rate, because repo rate reduction is what the businesses and the government want. Because if repo rate is low, then credit in the economy is easily available and people and economic spur, economic growth gets a boost. So that's the idea. Means when you get loans easily, then you will think of getting loans, investing more. So that's economic boost given as such. So accommodative policy stance means this. And neutral stance, which the RBI has presently changed its stance to, that it will not be accommodative. It was accommodative till Feb 2017, but post this it has become neutral. So neutral means accommodative means it was keen on reducing repo rate, and neutral means that it may increase or decrease the repo rate based on the situation. And presently, if you look at the inflation figures are low. So inflation is down. So that's why when inflation levels are low, then it was expected that RBI would reduce the repo rate. Even government was expecting a reduction in the repo rate. Rather, the finance minister had called for a meeting with all the members of MPC2. They were invited, but all the members declined this invitation. So this is also asserting the independence of Monetary Policy Committee, and they have kept the repo rate unchanged, except one dissenting vote as we saw. So this is there. And neutral monetary policy, that's what it means. So now since the inflation levels are low, what you see the RBI saying is that to retain credibility, they have held the repo rate. Means they have to see the future trend also, because what they're expecting is that the repo rate the inflation would go high later. So right now we don't want to reduce the repo rate and then regret later. So that is why we have held. So this is what it is saying. We do not warrant premature policy action. And why the RBI feels that inflation levels would go high, one of the reasons it is also giving is regarding the farm loan waivers which are announced by some states. UP has already announced, even Maharashtra government has plans that it would have loan waivers given to small and marginal farmers. So this means there will be more money in the hands of the people than they would be spending, and that is what results in inflation. The general level of prices go high. When there is money in the economy, then prices go high. So that is one aspect also which the RBI is looking forward to, and also good monsoon. Monsoon will be good, so that will also result in money in the hands of the people. Oil prices are also low. So all these aspects are going to help in price levels going up later. So when inflation will increase, though it is low right now, but it may increase later, and that is why we do not want to prematurely take an action and reduce repo rate. So that is the news here. Then the next news item is 82.6% of currency present before demonetization back in system, RBI. So RBI has said that this much amount of currency is back. If there are shortages of currency in some pockets, then they can be responded to immediately by various means when they come to the notice of RBI. Otherwise, a huge amount of currency is back in the economy. So this is also being stated. The next is Center clears Kambala Bill. So now Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Karnataka Amendment Bill 2017 has been approved by the Union Ministry of Labour and Justice. So central government approval was required for this because this is also a provision in the concurrent list. So if there is a law, a central level law, and state wants to make a specific provision for itself, then central approval is also required. So this Karnataka Amendment Bill has been approved, and what it specifically tries to do is legalize Kambala. So this Kambala is a traditional buffalo race. So as we have seen, if you have been following news for long, you would be knowing about Jallikattu too. So Jallikattu was this bull taming festival of Tamil Nadu. So for this also, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Tamil Nadu Amendment Bill 2017 was approved by the government. It was a whole case going on before the Supreme Court, and by all twists and turns, finally the politicians prevailed, and looking into the people's sentiments and this cultural aspect associated with it, keeping aside the cruelty to animals aspect, these festivals have been allowed to continue. So exceptions have been made to it. So here we are seeing again buffalo race has been allowed to continue. So this had been pending before the government for long, since March as such, but then presently it has been cleared by the central government because there was a particular phrase in this Karnataka bill which said that, subject to such other conditions as may be prescribed. So this modification will be there to Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and such other conditions. So this open phrase would result in later the state government having the power to include any other sport, anything under this bill. So that is why this phrase was asked to be omitted and modified, and then the bill has been approved by the cabinet, central cabinet. So this is there. So this you can see is the buffalo racing, slush track buffalo racing festival of Karnataka, Kambala. Then next is board exam for class 5 and 8. CISC. So this is ICSC exams. So ICSC board has stated that students of class 5 and class 8 would be having board exams from 2018 academic year, and they say this will help in assessing the progress made by the students. There would be no evaluation done. They would not be held back in classes as such. So they will not be having any promotion of students as such to the next class, but this will be just understanding the progress of the students. So there will be a board paper which will be set, and the students would be attempting these, and there will be not internal but external evaluators who would be evaluating the papers. So that's how it would be. Also, it has announced, the board has announced that there will be 3 compulsory subjects introduced to, that is yoga, Sanskrit and performing arts. Then the next news item is Supreme Court sets aside High Court order on PG medical seats. So actually, Allahabad High Court had ruled that 50% institutional quota for postgraduate medical courses which are provided by Aligarh Muslim University and Banaras Hindu University, that has to be set aside. Means there should be no such internal quota. Means what they wanted was graduates from their own institute should go for these postgraduate courses through this 50% institutional quota. And this is allowed under MCI, Medical Council of India regulations. But this Allahabad High Court had negated this. It said that all seats should be filled through NEET, National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test. For medical courses, this for graduate, postgraduate, all this entrance examination is held. So through that, all the posts should be filled. So that all the seats should be filled was the order of the Allahabad High Court. But then Supreme Court has said that Allahabad High Court overstepped its jurisdiction. This is already allowed under the regulations. And under what jurisdiction, what purview did Allahabad High Court passed this order, and it has restored, it has quashed the order of Allahabad High Court and says that all 50% institutional quota can be provided by Aligarh Muslim University and Banaras Hindu University. So this is the order of Supreme Court, and also it has said that Allahabad High Court's direction that incentive marks cannot be given to MBBS doctors who have served in remote and difficult areas, even though they have cleared the MBBS examination from outside UP. So this also denying of these incentive marks has also been set aside. Supreme Court said they should be given incentive marks. So this is the ruling. Then next is Supreme Court to hear plea on cattle trade rules. So on cattle trade rules, we have already seen the details about the new rules which have come forth. Prevention of cruelty to animals, regulation of livestock market rules. And also another is prevention of cruelty to animals, care and maintenance of case property and animals. So this has already been discussed earlier too, that these rules are violating right to food. So freedom of choice in food, and also Article 19 of the Constitution, under which freedom of occupation, trade and business is provided. So this is a violation to that too. Also these rules are violation to the Act itself, under which they are formulated. So all these points have been raised in a petition before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has accepted this and is going to hear this matter now. So this is regarding that. Then the next news item is Jammu and Kashmir to hold special session of legislature on GST. So Jammu and Kashmir cabinet has decided to hold a special session of Jammu and Kashmir state legislature, in which the GST proposals, goods and services tax proposals, would be discussed and adopted by the state. So since Jammu and Kashmir has its own constitution, the central laws do not directly apply to Jammu and Kashmir. Most of them, these cases have to be approved by the state legislature of Jammu and Kashmir. Only then they become applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. So this is there. Then next is India denies Iran shutting it out of gas field development. So this is regarding Farzad B gas field. So this gas field was discovered by ONGC Videsh Limited, which is the overseas arm of state-run ONGC. But then the development of this gas field is being negotiated for so long. Tehran is not happy with the delay and the commitment which has been given by OVL of $3 billion and the time which it is taking to finalize the terms. So because of this, Tehran is now looking at other investors too, and an MOU has been signed between Iran and Russia. So Russian company Gazprom for the development of Farzad B gas field. So this is available, it's present in the media, the news as such, but the Indian authorities say that they are still optimistic that India and Iran will have the deal on Farzad B gas field. This is just an MOU signed as such. So this is the statement given by India. So it is denying that any concerns are there. However, the negotiations between the two, India and Iran, had heated up recently. We had also seen India had cut oil imports from Iran to put pressure on Iran, and Iran had also retaliated. They had reduced the credit time limit given to Indian companies. So credit time limit was of 90 days. They reduced it to 60 days. So they were putting pressure tactics on each other. So this is regarding Farzad B gas field here. So already OVL has invested over $80 million in this gas field. So in discovery of this gas field. So you can see. So Iran is unhappy with the proposal which OVL has given for this. The investment which it has given, it wants more of investments and development here. The cost which OVL is saying. So OVL should reduce the cost which it is mentioning is what Iran also wants. So here you can see the consortium partners with OVL here in Farzad B are OVL having 40% stake, Indian Oil 40% and Oil India 20%. So the initial agreement between India and Iran on Farzad B were in 2002. And then Farzad B gas field was discovered. There is 60% recoverable gas here. And already investment has been done by India up to the tune of $90 million. So it's $80–90 million which have already been put in. So here it was 80. Here it's mentioned 90. So approximately this is the investment already done, and now recovering gas is the next step. So after discovering, recovery of gas is what is being negotiated by Iran, and now it is considering handing it over to another company. And an MOU presently, the news is it with Gazprom, the Russian company, has been signed. Then next is India to join SCO in Astana. So this is regarding Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So India and Pakistan both are observers at SCO, and now they have signed memorandum of obligation. So this will be applicable to both the countries, India and Pakistan, and they would become full-time members of SCO now. So the process will be completed at Astana. The next meet which is going to take place, SCO meet, is in Astana, Kazakhstan. So here both would be taken in as full-time members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So this is also a security alliance plus also emphasizing on trade. So both aspects are there. So full membership means that India will also have joint military exercises as such too. So such exercise with Pakistan is a question raised on that. So on this, the Indian side is saying that fighting against terrorism is incumbent on all countries, so including Pakistan and China. So if joint exercises are there, we may participate in such exercises too. And also another part is the trade front. So on trade front too, cooperation would be sought. So this SCO will also facilitate cooperating with the neighbors of Afghanistan too, to bring in peace and stability in the region and counter terrorism. So you can see the 6 SCO members which were already there, and 2 new members, India and Pakistan, will make it 8. So China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are the 6 members, right? And present summit is in Astana, Kazakhstan. So this was formed in 2001. Earlier there were 5 members. It was called Shanghai 5 as an organization in 1996. When Uzbekistan joined in 2001, it has reframed itself as SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Then the next news item is India to remain among top 3 investor destinations till 2019. So this is World Investment Report 2017 of UNCTAD, UN Conference on Trade and Development. So this is ranking India at 10th in terms of FDI inflows in the year 2016, and it says that India will remain among the top 3 destinations for investments globally till 2019 for next 2 years too, so including with China and USA. So this is the statement coming for. So global FDI is also expected to rise. FDI retreated marginally in 2016, though India FDI in 2015-16 remained at the same level. It has not reduced as such in 2016, but it is expected to grow further now. The next is new data on jobs to be all inclusive. So this is regarding a task force which has been set up by this Prime Minister, which is headed by Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Arvind Panagaria. So this task force on employment data is likely to submit its report soon. So in this, because we have seen recently that unemployment levels are going high, is what is doing the rounds as such. So clearer picture of employment levels is required, and this task force has been set up, and it is stated that it is expected in this task force even employment generated through schemes like MGNREGA and Mudra scheme. These schemes would also be added into the employment levels. So even the other new ways of evaluating employment levels will be put forth, like vehicle registrations in the country. If there are vehicle registrations taking place, so if there are new cars sold, means there are new jobs also created. So all these unconventional ways of calculating whether the jobs are being created or not will be used. So such recommendations are also coming forth. So this is an indication given as such here. So this is there. So then another point put forth is technology should be used in conducting employment surveys like mobile phones, tablet devices. So this will be put forth. Also social security schemes. So social security schemes like Employee Provident Fund, NPS, National Pension System, Employee State Insurance Corporation, all these schemes will also be determining formalization of workforce. So this data will also be used. So how much of formalization of workforce is taking place, that would also be calculated. So Labour Bureau as such, it has these surveys conducted, but these surveys are done for formal organizations, means that those employing more than 10 workers. So firms with less than 10 workers comprise of 98% of the total establishments. So their employment levels have to be known too. So this should also be surveyed. So this point may also be raised. So the only employment data which is available in India presently is the one conducted by NSSO, which happens once in 5 years. The annual household surveys, which is done by Labour Bureau, and also quarterly enterprises survey done by Labour Bureau. So now a revamping of this. Also annual survey of industries are conducted. So these are the present surveys undertaken. So a revamp of this may be recommended. So this report will come forth. So we are of course going to discuss it in detail. So this is task force and employment data. And this is regarding the Mudra Yojana. So this will also be included as such as we discussed in the employment level. So this Mudra scheme, this Mudra bank was announced by the government in 2015. So Mudra stands for Micro Units Development Refinance Agency. So this is a bank which will be refinancing microfinance institutions. So this microfinance institutions further provide finance to the people. So this microfinance institutions actually are bringing in self-employment. So investments, if a person needs to invest in some activity, then microfinance institutions provide them with loans. So that is how it's saying. The Prime Minister had also launched this Yojana saying that we don't want to create employees, but we want to create employers. So that's how this scheme was also announced. So this is regarding Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. The next is GMR Infra Arm bags 850 million euro Crete airport project in Greece. So this is an island nation here in Greece, and here the airport development project has been handed over to Greece, so to GMR Airports Limited. So this is the Indian consortium which is also operating the international airports in New Delhi and Hyderabad. So GMR Group is been also it's developing an airport in Turkey. So Istanbul Sabiha Gökçen Airport is also being developed by GMR Group. So GMR Group has been given this Greenfield project. So Greenfield project is a project which will start from scratch. So this Crete Island already has an airport, and a new airport would be built now because the capacity constraints which are seen in this region call for another airport. So this partnership with Greek infrastructure firm has been done with GMR, and they would be developing, operating and managing this new international airport in Greece. So this is there. Then next is RBI nod must for firms to issue masala bonds. So masala bonds, this had come prominently in news when World Bank's arm, Infrastructure Finance Corporation, IFC, had announced these masala bonds. So these masala bonds are bonds which are denominated in Indian currency. They are issued overseas, but then they're brought in overseas currency, but their value will be determined through Indian currency only. So means any changes in Indian rupee as such, that risk has to be borne by the investor. So these are the bonds which are issued to generate money for investments in India, especially for infrastructure projects. Also there are green masala bonds. So such bonds are being issued for climate change related, for investments with respect to climate change, so to bring in climate resilience, etc. So such masala bonds are issued. So now RBI has stated any company which is issuing masala bonds has to take prior permission from RBI's Forex department. So this is the norm coming forth. As there are norms for external commercial borrowings, so this is also being regulated now. The term masala is specifically used. It was used by IFC for the first time, so to give it an Indian flavor. So there are different such names given, like dim sum bonds which are there for Chinese bonds. So such names to specify, like masala stands for spices, which stands for India historically too. So to give an identity that these are bonds with respect to India. So this is there. Then the last news item is Bopanna enters final of French Open mixed double. So Rohan Bopanna has entered the French Open's mixed doubles final with his Canadian partner. So means at least the silver trophy is for sure. So he's become the 4th Indian to have a Grand Slam trophy. The other 3 so far have been Leander Paes, Mahesh Bhupathi and Sania Mirza. So this is the news. So these are the news items. Thank you.